Hi everyone. So welcome to the live stream today as we continue with our preparation for the March 2025 examination and onwards. And our focus tonight is going to be on financial reporting and corporate reporting, and most importantly, how you can position yourself to pass any of these papers, because it is important you have an understanding. Sorry. It's important you have an understanding of the structure of the examination, what the examiner expects from you, and how you can really position yourself to go into the exam hall with confidence. And so my goal tonight is to give you the blueprint, what exactly you have to do in the next 12 weeks, 13 weeks to be specific, in order for you to go into the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and most importantly, pass the examination. Now, if there are any questions that you have for me in respect of financial reporting and or corporate reporting, put it in the comment section or the chat box for me. I'm going to be answering all your questions as we jump into the slide today as we discuss this. Remember, these papers, whether you're in level 2 financial reporting or corporate reporting, they have a strong bond or relationship that you need to know about. And once you know the bond or the relationship, you can easily go through. One of the significant issues that I've seen over the years also is that I've had students who will pass the corporate reporting examination, but then will not pass financial reporting. I mean, they were writing across board, and it's like strange, right? And then you have some students who will get financial reporting very easily. They pass it at one attempt, but then they go to level 3, corporate reporting. It becomes a challenge. And so the question we then have to ask ourselves is, what are the strategies? What are the shortcuts? What are the ways? What are the techniques that we have to adopt to ensure that if we are going into the exam hall with financial reporting, we are passing the exam? And if we are going into the exam hall with corporate reporting also, we are going to ultimately pass the examination. And that is what we want to share our thoughts on today on the stream. So let me bring up my slide quickly and then let's go into the discussion. So first things first, in any of these papers, whether you're writing financial reporting or corporate reporting, is to be able to know the objective of the examiner. It is important you know the objective of the examiner in respect of any of these papers. And so we need to ask ourselves, all right, how is the financial reporting exam going to be like? Corporate reporting, how is it going to be like? What is the objective of the examiner? What is the examiner seeking to do at the end of the day? On the overall, there are a couple of objectives that we need to understand. Number one is going to be the application of the international financial reporting standards to specific scenarios. That's the first objective of the examiner. What is the way to specific scenarios? That's the first objective. Application of IFRS to specific scenarios. And that is why in either case, we are going to be having specific questions on accounting standards. So the examiner is going to present you with some illustrations, some questions. And based on that, the examiner is going to be asking you, how should this be accounted for in the books of the entity? Explain how the entity is supposed to account for this. The entity has already accounted for it. Advise them whether the accounting is appropriate or not. So that is the first objective of the examiner, the application of the IFRS to specific scenarios. Now, it is very important you understand the objective of the examiner, because that is going to be tied in up with everything else later. The second thing about the objective of the examiner in either paper is to find out from students how they can apply their knowledge and to be able to interpret the financial statement. And so evaluation of the entity's performance. So evaluation of entities' performance using financial indicators. That is the second objective of the examiner. How can students be able, or are students able to evaluate an entity's performance using financial indicators. And this is where we're going to be having our ratio analysis, our cash flow budget, and other things coming in generally when it comes to the examination. And we're going to be getting into this as well in a moment. But that is the second objective of the examiner: evaluation of the entity's performance using financial indicators. Not only that, the third objective of the examiner is to find out about how how candidates can be able to prepare financial statements. So, preparation of financial statements. Now, when it comes to the preparation of the financial statement, it is important we understand how to prepare the financial statement for a single entity, and then how we prepare the financial statement for also a group of companies. All right? And that is where we have consolidated financial statements. And so, how can you prepare financial statements for a single entity? Now, remember, in the preparation of the financial statement also, you are going to be applying the IFRSs. So, the application of the IFRSs in the preparation of financial statement, it's going to be crucial here. So, it is the objective of the examiner to find out how are students able to use the accounting standards to prepare financial statements for a single entity, financial statement for a group of companies. Very important. Very important. Then we're going to be looking at some other issues in respect of basic concepts, and if you want, principles in financial reporting. Basic concept and principles in financial reporting. Now, this is where the examiner could throw issues in respect of the conceptual framework. These are basic concepts. You learned it in KG2. Issues about ethics, the accountant and ethics. Issues about setting accounting standards. Okay, so IFRS standard setting processes. These are basic issues that the examiner may expect you to know about. Maybe some IT issues currently with the development coming in that regard. And so the first question we ask ourselves on our journey of passing financial reporting, corporate reporting examination is, what is the objective of the examiner? One is to find out or assess students' ability to be able to apply financial reporting standards to specific scenarios. Two, to assess the students' performance in respect of how they can evaluate the performance of an entity using financial ratios. Three, how are students able to use the accounting standards to now prepare full financial statements of the entity, if it is a single entity, or a consolidated financial statement? Four, what is the understanding of students in respect of basic concepts and principles in financial reporting, like the conceptual framework, like ethics, like the IFRS standard setting procedures? These are objectives that you must know about. Then certainly the fifth thing, especially for the corporate reporting students, this is where we're going to be having helping management to make various decisions. All right. So management decision making. How can the financial accountant help management in making various decisions? And this is exclusive to corporate reporting students. And this is where we have business valuation. All right. Where we're going to be valuing the business. And then number two, where we have the issue in respect of financial reconstruction or corporate reorganization. Financial reconstruction or corporate reorganization. These models are to help management in making various decisions as to whether they should acquire a company or not, whether the entity should undergo a restructuring or not, whether the entity should proceed and exist or not, whether the entity should be liquidated or not. So the first thing we must understand in assessing our ability to be able to pass the financial reporting or the corporate reporting examination is to ask ourselves, what is the objective of the examiner? And this is what the examiner is going to be looking out for in each examination diet. Can you apply the accounting standards to specific scenarios? Can you analyze the performance of an entity using financial indicators? Can you prepare financial statements for a single entity and a group of companies? Are you able to remember the basic concepts, basic principles in financial reporting? And certainly, can you help management in making various decisions about acquisitions under business valuation or some financial reconstruction or corporate reorganization? And these are the objectives of the examiner. Now, so once we know the examiner's objective, then the question we then have to ask ourselves is, all right, how are we supposed to approach the syllabus, the exam? Because if this is the objective of the examiner, then this is how we need to study. And so the first area is going to be the application of the accounting standards. And so that is going to be a crucial aspect in our discussion of financial reporting and corporate reporting, accounting standards. Now, for financial reporting students, at least you're going to have 45% directly applying the accounting standards. Corporate reporting students, depending on how excited the examiner is, you can have between 40 or 50% directly on the accounting standards coming in that you have to apply. So you realize that to be able to pass the financial reporting and corporate reporting examination, you have to be strong in the accounting standards. Why? Because you will be required to apply the accounting standards to specific scenario. You will be preparing consolidated financial statements under business valuation, financial reconstruction, even under evaluation of financial statements. There are times that you would have to apply the accounting standards to make various adjustments before you go ahead to calculate the ratios and start doing the interpretation for the entity. And so the accounting standards, very important. Now, there are a lot of accounting standards, a lot of accounting standards. The question we then have to ask ourselves is, how do we know them? How do we put them together? As I say this always, the accounting standards are intertwined with each other. In other words, most of the accounting standards are not just on their own. So you have to learn them in that symbiotic manner in order for you to optimize your chances of ultimately passing the examination. If not, then you cannot pass the exam. And so how do you study the accounting standards to be able to position yourself to pass the exam? Now, let me give you the list first of the accounting standards. Then we can give you some strategies here. So we have IAS 2, inventories, very important there. We have IAS 8, accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates. We have IAS 10, events after the reporting period. We have IAS 12, income taxes. We have IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment. We have IAS 20, government grant. We have IAS 23, borrowing cost. We have IAS 33, earnings per share. We have IAS 36, impairment. We have IAS 37, provisions, contingent liabilities, contingent assets. We have IAS 38, intangible assets. We have IAS 40, investment property there. We have IFRS 2, share-based payment. There is IAS 32, that is financial instrument. We have IAS 28, investment in associate. We have IFRS 9, financial instrument. IFRS 15, revenue from contract with customers. IFRS 16, leases. All right. Now, I'm just getting started with you. Okay? Just getting started. Don't get overwhelmed. But these are a number of standards that we need to look out for. IAS 2, IAS 8, IAS 10, IAS 12, 16, 20, 23, 33, 36, 37, 38, 40. IFRS 2. Then we have, let me add this, IAS 19, employee benefits. So, yes, there are, and we are not done, right? We are not done. But there are a lot of accounting standards that we need to know about. Because whether I like it or not in the exam, or the examiner is going to be hitting you with some accounting standards. Dedicated, as you know already. So it's a lot. It looks like it's plenty. But how do you understand them? You see, as I say always, the way you approach the accounting standards is to know that they are together. Now, one thing you must know that I say always is that in the exam hall, all you are going to do is to apply principles. So you are going to be doing application of principles. Stay with me carefully. Stay with me carefully because we've started going into deeper areas. In the exam hall, all you are doing in respect of these accounting standards is to apply basic principles. 99.9% of the time, the question that the examiner is going to be bringing, you've not seen it anywhere. So it's not like it's a repeated question. You've not seen it anywhere. So you are going to be applying the principles. So the question you then have to ask yourself is, what do I have to do in respect of these accounting standards? Is to understand the basic principles in respect of the accounting standards. That's all. So your goal should be, what are the basic principles of these accounting standards? Now, I know you're going to say, oh, Nhyira, this is a lot. No, it's not a lot, because if it is going to be like 40%, 45% of the exam, then it's worth the trial. It's worth knowing about them. So your goal should be to understand the basic principles of all these accounting standards. That should be your goal. But how do you do that? You do that by going through the principles. And that is why, for instance, on our portal, we have the summary videos on all these accounting standards. All these accounting standards. Summary videos in explaining the principles, because your goal is to understand the principles. So when we take IAS 23, that is borrowing cost. What is the principle about borrowing cost? The principle states that where an entity borrows funds or borrows money to finance the day-to-day running of the organization, then any borrowing cost will be written off in the P&L account. However, where the entity borrows the funds to finance the construction or the acquisition or the manufacturing of a qualifying asset, then the borrowing cost incurred during the active period where there is work ongoing must be included in the initial cost of the asset. That's the principle. Generally, then you need to understand, okay, when do we start capitalization? When can we pause capitalization or suspend capitalization? When do we end capitalization? Okay, what if the entity borrows the funds from 2 other sources or 3 sources? That means we are going to use the weighted average interest rate. So when you take borrowing cost, that is what you are under, that is the principle. So your goal should be understanding the basic principles of all these accounting standards. When we pick IFRS 15, revenue from contract with customers, what are the principles? Number 1, entities only recognize revenue when performance obligation is satisfied. Number 2, where an entity receives money prior to the fulfillment or the satisfaction of the performance obligation, that amount received will not be recognized as revenue. Instead, it will be recognized as a deferred income. It is a financial liability in accordance with IFRS 9 financial instrument. Number 3, when an entity sells goods with a repayment option when an entity sells goods on credit to the customer and there is a discount or the interest associated with the credit, then the sales value must be splitted into revenue and also income. That's principle. When an entity sells goods with a repurchase option, then it is not a sale but a financial arrangement because the inventories are used as collateral facilities. Okay, so these are the principles. So in understanding the accounting standards, it is about the principles. So I tell my students as always, you want to make sure that you have a diary. You want to have a diary, a notebook where all these principles are written down. Because in the exam hall, you are doing only one thing. You are applying the principles to the given scenario. That's all you are doing. You are applying principles. So, how do you understand the principles? By spending time going through it. That is why I mentioned that our summary videos, for instance, it's a game changer. So in our mobile application, you can get access to these videos and download these videos and watch them over and over again. Write your notes out in your diary, in your notepad, the summary principles. When you now know the summary principles, then you can start approaching questions. You can start approaching questions. So look at the scenarios that I gave you. For instance, if we go to IAS 36, impairment, all right, an asset is said to have suffered an impairment when the carrying amount is greater than the recoverable amount. All right, what is the recoverable amount of an asset? The recoverable amount of an asset is the higher of the value in use and fair value less cost to sell. Okay, what is value in use? Value in use is simply the present value of the future estimated cash flow from the continuous usage of the asset. What does that mean? It means that if an entity does not sell an asset and it continues to use the asset, every year, how much would the entity make? Discount that into present value. At the end of the useful life of the asset, if the entity will sell the asset at a scrap value, that one will also be discounted to present value. That is what will give us the value in use. But you are going to discount those cash flows using the pre-tax cost of capital of the entity. Its principles, it doesn't change. So people, sometimes I hear people saying that, oh, the accounting standard is difficult. No, it's principles. It does not change. You want to calculate value in use? Discount the annual cash flows. You can use the annuity formula to get the annuity factor to discount the annual cash flows. Then at the end of the economic useful life of the asset, if there is a scrap value, you discount that using the discount factor at the period or at the end of the economic useful life of the asset, using the pre-tax cost of capital of the entity. So sometimes in a given question, the examiner will give you both the pre-tax and the post-tax cost of capital. Then you're like, oh, which one should I use? AICA. No! Principle says use pre-tax cost of capital. So it is about spending time to understand the principles underlining each of these accounting standards. So irrespective of the question that the examiner will throw at you, once you know, oh, this is IAS 36, impairment. Okay, I'm looking for recoverable amount. Is the value in use and fair value less cost to sell? Okay, what is fair value less cost to sell? If the asset is being sold now, how much are we going to be getting from the asset? That is the fair value less cost to sell. So I compare that to the value in use. The higher of the two becomes the recoverable amount. Once I get that value, I compare that to the carrying amount, applying the accounting standards. Once I get that, I determine whether it has suffered an impairment or not. If the carrying amount is greater than the recoverable amount, yes, the asset has suffered an impairment. Then I have to write off that impairment in the P&L account. Now, if it happens that it is group of assets, then we come to cash generating unit. And there's a principle on how impairment of cash generation unit will be allocated. It is a principle. It does not change. So your objective as a student going into the exam hall in respect of the accounting standard is to understand the basic principles underlining each of the accounting standard. And as I said, one of the ways you get the basic principles as fast as possible is to leverage our summary videos in our mobile application. When you enroll in any of these courses, leverage on the summary videos. That way, you can go through these standards in record time. Why? Because it's just the principles you are picking up. Different aspects of the standards, the principles. You are picking up the principles, then you now expose yourself to questions. Because as you now see the questions, you are now applying the principles. And that is where you start working with what we spoke about yesterday, speed and accuracy. Because the reason why you're going to be spending more time on this than you are supposed to is because you don't remember your principles. Sometimes you read a question and you don't know which accounting standard is this. It's because you don't understand the principles. That's the thing. It's not that the question is difficult, no. Because I've had that a lot. People will be like, oh, even in our performance evaluation test, in our mock examination, then in the main examination, people are like, yeah, Nhyira, I read a question, I didn't know what he's talking about. No. If you understand thoroughly the basic principles of these accounting standards, when you read the scenario, you will know, oh, this thing is talking about inventories. This thing is talking about IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment. This thing is talking about this. So that is the strategy. You are applying principles in the exam hall, so understand the principles. How do you do that? Leverage our summary videos, get to the principles, get a notepad. Yesterday, we spoke about preparing a study plan. Today, what I'm adding to you is get a notepad. For each of these accounting standards, as you are learning them, write the principles down. That is what you need. Let the principles become part of you. Once you write the principles, you understand the principles, then you start exposing yourself to questions. Once you start exposing yourself to questions, that is where you start working with speed and accuracy. So that is going to be the strategy for the accounting standards. Know the principles, expose yourself to questions, apply speed and accuracy, meaning that you're going to be solving these questions under time. Going to be solving these questions under time. So you finish learning a certain accounting standard. Go look for a question about it. And then you expose yourself to that question. Again, if you are studying under my mentorship, we have question kits covering each of these accounting standards that you can solve. Send it over. It will be checked for you. You will be guided to be able to understand this very well. Because that is the community we have here. We have the questions available. You solve it, send it over. It will be looked at, review for you. Then the correction will be done. Then you keep going. So you have to spend the time to understand the principles. Spend the time to expose yourself to questions. Spend the time to work with speed and accuracy, meaning you're going to be solving the questions under time. So in that case, how then do we look at the accounting standards? As always, I like to put the accounting standards in a certain cluster to help us understand exactly what is going on. Whether I like it or not, in the exam hall, there is going to be some accounting standards relating to non-current assets. So there will be some non-current assets accounting standards questions that the examiner is going to be hitting you with, all of that things being equal in the exam hall. And the way I want you to look at the accounting standards generally is that we're going to be always starting with IAS 16, which is property, plant, and equipment. Now, when you take any accounting standard at all, as you go through the principles, there are a number of things that you need to understand. The first thing is going to be the objective of the accounting standard. The second thing is going to be key definitions. The third thing is going to be initial recognition. The next thing is going to be subsequent measurement. And the fifth thing is going to be disclosure requirements. The examiner can come and bring you a question in each of these 5 areas. So any accounting standard you pick at all, you must know its objective. You must know any key definitions of terminologies in there. You must know the initial measurement, if there is any, for most of the accounting standards. Some of them, we don't have anything like initial measurement. Then you have to understand the issue in respect of subsequent measurement and then the disclosure requirement. And so when I take something like IAS 16, as I do always, we go to the initial measurement. Now, the initial measurement simply refers to the determination of the amount at which the transaction will be carried, or in this case, the asset will be carried in the books of the entity for the first time. All right. Now, the difference between measurement and incorporation is that measurement is the determination of the monetary amount at which an asset is carried or an item is carried. Incorporation has to do with recording the transactions in the books of the entity. And so when I go to initial measurement of IAS 16, there are a couple of accounting standards that I have to be aware of, that they have some relationship with IAS 16. The first one that I want to throw at you will be IAS 23, borrowing cost. As I told you a moment ago, when an entity borrows funds to construct a qualifying asset, property, plant, and equipment, whatever the heck, then the borrowing cost will be included in the initial cost of the asset. So IAS 23 has some relationship. Number 2, IAS 20, government grants. When an entity buys an asset and it receives grants from the government, there are 2 ways that grants can be dealt with. Either we will use the grant to reduce the initial cost of the asset, which is the written off method, or we recognize the grant as a deferred income, which is the default method. So that is initial recognition also there. Then IAS 37, provisions, contingent liabilities, contingent assets. When an entity acquires an asset and at the end of the asset economic useful life, there has to be some cleanup, dismantling, environmental cost, restoration cost, and all of those things. IAS 37 requires that the entity makes provision for it. Now, that provision relates to an asset. Because it relates to an asset, we will discount that future payment into present value using the cost of capital of the entity and include that present value figure in the initial measurement of the property, plant, and equipment in question. So IAS 37 is going to be coming up here for initial measurement as well, that we have to be mindful of. Then we can talk about IAS 19, which is employee benefit. When we pay wages and salaries by default, that is written off in the P&L account, no problem. But if the wages and salary being paid relates to the construction or the manufacturing of an asset, then the wages and salaries and other payments given to employees will be included in the initial cost of the asset. So that is IAS 19 as well, coming up in that case. Then we can talk about IAS 21, the effect of changes in exchange rate. When transactions are denominated in a foreign currency, IAS 21 requires that the transaction should be translated into the functional currency of the reporting entity using the exchange rate at the transaction date. And so IAS 21 is also another thing that will be maybe relevant when it comes to the initial measurement of property, plant, and equipment. Because when we buy an asset from a foreign country and it is denominated in a foreign currency and we are a Ghanaian company, our functional currency is going to be the Ghana cedi for the most part. In that case, we have to translate it from either the dollar or the euro or whatever currency it is denominated in into the Ghana cedi. The principle on how to deal with translation and subsequent measurement of monetary and non-monetary items is enshrined in IAS 21, effect of changes in exchange rate. So when it comes to the initial measurement, there are a number of other accounting standards that we could bring up. But when it comes to the initial measurement, these are a couple of things that we need to know about. IAS 23 borrowing cost, very important. IAS 20, very important. IAS 37, very important. IAS 19, IAS 21, very important. Then we flip it up to the subsequent measurement. Now that we've finished the initial measurement, on the subsequent measurement of the asset, a couple of things may be happening, and it will be important for us to know how to account for them. The first one will be testing for impairment, and so IAS 36, impairment of assets. The second one is dealing with transfers. Sometimes we can change an investment property into a property, plant, and equipment, or change a property, plant, and equipment into an investment property. And so IAS 40 could be important here. Then we may revalue assets as per the standard. And so when an entity is revaluing an asset, then the deferred tax implication will be important for us to look at. And that is IAS 12 in the discussion. So you realize that, again, I'm just trying to be a little lenient here, not complicate things a lot. If you look at the flow here, just as a trial, you realize that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So things that are having some connection that the examiner can try at you. Now remember, in the exam hall, when you're applying the principles, sometimes in a given question, you have to apply 2 or 3 accounting standards. Sometimes it's just one accounting standard, you walk away. There are sometimes you have to apply 2 or 3 accounting standards, meaning you will call on principles in respect of 2 or 3 accounting standards to be able to answer a 5-mark question, or in some cases, a 7-mark question. So connection in relation to IAS 16 property, plant, and equipment, you have to understand these accounting standards. Then there are other accounting standards that I refer to as the basic standards. These are standards that you don't have an excuse. You have to know about them before you jump into the exam hall. And that is going to be IFRS 13, fair value measurement. IFRS 13, fair value measurement. It's a very interesting accounting standard that you need to know about. It's fundamental. It's basic. You may not get directly a question about it, but the principles there are crucial for you to answer a lot of questions, even in consolidation, in dealing with preparation of financial statements, in dealing with business valuation. The concept of fair value measurement is very important. Then you come to another basic accounting standard, and that is IAS 2, inventory, with the other one, IAS 41, agriculture. Then IAS 8 is a reading area, accounting policy, changes in accounting estimates and errors. You don't need a miracle on that. And then the last one is going to be IAS 10, events after the reporting period. These 5 accounting standards here, you do not need miracles on them. They are basic accounting standards. Before you get into any financial reporting or corporate reporting examination, it is something that you are supposed to know about. No negotiation. IAS 10, events after the reporting period. All right. Transactions that are occurring after the year end, but before financial statements are authorized for publication. Okay. Those transactions occurring can either be adjusting or non-adjusting. Okay, the ones that are adjusting are transaction and events, giving us evidence in respect of something that had existed at the reporting date, which means we would have to amend the financial statement. Non-adjusting events, they are not giving us any information about something that existed at the reporting date. So in that case, all we do is to disclose the information in the notes to the financial statement. I'm done. That's IAS 10. Very sweet, simple, straight to the point. IFRS 13, fair value measurement. How do you determine fair value of transactions? There are 3 tests that you go through to determine fair value of items. to determine fair value of items. IAS 2, inventories. IAS 8, accounting policies, changes in accounting estimates, and errors. What are accounting policies? So you should be able to know how to distinguish between accounting policies and accounting estimates. So when there is a change in accounting policy, how do you account for it? When there is a change in accounting estimates, how do you deal with it? Prior period errors, how do you deal with them? So these basic accounting standards are non-negotiable. I call them the baby standards. This is what you use to learn how to crawl, to learn how to go through the standards generally in that regard. So these are basic standards that you want to know about generally. Again, if you look at it, everything about the standards is all about what I said earlier, understanding the principles. Understanding the principles. And that is why I'm impressing on you. Spend time to go through all the accounting standards. Don't say it's a lot. You have to know about all of them. Get the principles very well. And the way you do that is to leverage our summary videos that we have available on all of the accounting standards that has broken down the standards in various specific areas that you'll be able to understand. And when you are learning the standards, have a notebook, a dedicated notebook where you are going to be writing the principles on all of the standards. Because when you pick any accounting standard question, you are just applying the principles. If you don't know the principles, you don't understand the principles, you cannot answer the questions. And that is where you read a question and you don't know what to do because the fundamentals are weak. Are you getting it? Because your foundation is weak. Where is the foundation? The understanding of the accounting standards. Very important. Very important. Now, so after these basic standards, there are other 3 standards that I refer to as key IFRSs that you must know about. 3 of them. And you have to know about them because they have a relationship. In the middle is IFRS 16 leases. Above is IFRS 9 financial instruments. Below is IFRS 15 revenue from contract with customers. Key standards, you have to know about them. Understand the principles very well. Everything in respect of these standards before you walk into the exam hall. The reason why these standards are important is because the IFRS 9 and IFRS 15, you have to apply the principles when we are dealing with sale and lease back under IFRS 16. That is where the connection is. That's where the connection is. So your basic non-current asset issues, starting with IAS 16, property, plant, and equipment, and the connection. The basic standards, non-negotiable. The key standards, understanding the principles. Very important. Very important. Now, once you're able to sail through this, now if you count now, you realize that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 standards. Then you come to the other ones that we can talk about in the discussion, which is IAS 33, earnings per share, IAS 38, intangible assets, right? And some other ones that we need to know about. Corporate reporting students, you got to be mindful about IFRS 2, share-based payment, IFRS 8, operating segment, and IAS 19, I've spoken about that already, that is employee benefits. So these are the standards. You have to know about you have to understand the principles on all of them. How do you do that? Spend time to go through our summary videos. It will help you. Then prepare your notes. Have a dedicated notebook, a dedicated notepad. Maybe you have an iPad or you have a tablet or whatever it is. You have a small book. You write the principles down. So when you pick that book, it's principles of the standards. When you understand the principles, the rationale behind the principles, now when you pick a question, you can do it easily. This is the pillar that holds financial reporting and corporate reporting. 99.9% of the time, the reason you fail the exam is because you are weak in the accounting standards. And the reason why you are going to spend a lot of time and the time is not going to be enough for you is because you are reading the question, but you cannot understand or remember which accounting standard to apply to a specific question. That is what you must understand about the first objective of the examiner: application of the accounting standards. Application of the accounting standards. I see some of you guys joining. If you are getting value in this video, share the video. Let's reach as many students as possible. Most importantly, if there are any questions that you have for me, put it in the comment section or the chat box for me. I'll be providing answers to all your questions. I'm seeing some comments coming up. Maybe I will take them quickly as we continue. Remember also that our registration is currently ongoing. You can register, get access to all our lecture videos, our summary videos, join our live lectures, which will be starting on the 9th of December, 2024. And we're going to be running for 12 weeks. You're going to be held accountable through assignments, performance evaluation tests, live lectures, mock sessions, personal mentorship sessions to help you to pass the examination. So you can visit our website, NhyiraPremium.com, and enroll in a course today, or you can download the Nhyira Premium mobile application on the Google Play Store or the App Store and come into the world, enroll in a course, start studying as we mentor you, provide you with the blueprint that you can really go into the exam hall and pass the examination. Imagine what you can get looking at the breakdown of what I'm doing here if you are studying directly under my mentorship and coming into our community, getting access to these summary videos that will help you to understand the basic concept and being held accountable, given the opportunity to solve questions. It will be marked. You will be advised. This is what you're supposed to do. This is what you did wrong. Imagine that environment, how it is going to help you to go into the exam hall in March 2025 and pass the examination. So you can enroll in a course today and start studying before our live lectures. Let us hold your hand, provide you with the mentorship that you need so that you can pass the examination. So I'm seeing some comments coming in. If there are any questions, please put them in the comment section for me. Remember to also share the video. Let us reach as many students as possible. This is a valuable lesson that I am sure many will be interested in getting access to. So I'm seeing some comments coming in here. Yao Tre said, just know your standards well. Okay, so I think asserting to the accounting standards in that particular case. Allen said, under what circumstances do you allocate goodwill between the parent and the subsidiary in consolidation? Okay, when NCI, that is the non-controlling interest, is valued at fair value, then impairment in goodwill will be shared. I don't know. You said allocate goodwill. I don't know. Are you talking about impairment in goodwill or allocating the goodwill specifically? Because we wouldn't allocate the goodwill specifically. It has to be recognized as a line item on the face of the statement of financial position. But the impairment in goodwill, if NCI is carried or valued at fair value, then impairment in goodwill will be allocated between the parent entity and then the non-controlling interest. But if non-controlling interest is valued at a proportionate method, then the impairment in goodwill will solely be borne by the parent entity and not to be allocated. So that is it about that. Let me know if that makes sense for you. Does one need to quote standards when answering questions in an exam? Yeah, definitely. If you can, why not? Because if the question says, discuss how the above transaction will be recognized or will be treated in the books of the entity, then you want to quote the standard. So after reading the question, then you go, in accordance with you state the principle, then you now contextualize to the case. Okay, so it's an add-on. It tells the examiner you know. And if you spend time to really understand the accounting standards, like going through, using our summary videos, for instance, going through the standards, boy, you will be solid. Once you read the question, quickly you will know this is the accounting standard I'm supposed to apply. And so, yes, referring the accounting standards is a plus. It's a plus. But you got to be careful so that you don't also make an error, because you could mention an accounting standard and explain the principle with a wrong accounting standard. And you don't want to be in that position. Okay? So maybe the thing is about IFRS 9. Then you are using IFRS 15. You are in trouble there. All right. But if you understand it very well, yes, quoting it is an add-on. The examiner is going to be loving you well if you do that for him at the end of the day. Any special class for resitters for CR student? Yes. We have the Nhyira Premium Platinum program that we are launching this semester. It is 2,000 Ghana cedi per paper for people who are doing receipts in corporate reporting, financial reporting, and some other selected papers. So you can visit our website, Daniel, read the information about the Nhyira Premium Platinum program. It is 2,000 Ghana cedi per paper. If you are doing receipts, yes, you can enroll in that course, but send us a message on WhatsApp. Let's know about that, because we are actually vetting students who we want to enroll in that program. It's not just bringing people in. We want people who are going to be highly committed, people who are willing to go the extra mile, people who are tired and they want to really write this exam in March and go away. So yes, we have the Nhyira Premium Platinum program for resitters, financial reporting, corporate reporting, management accounting, and other selected papers that you can enroll in. It is 2,000 Ghana cedi per paper. It is a limited group of people just in the same position where we are just putting you down, dealing with specific issues, addressing your specific problems for you. So that is a class group session limited for people who are doing the receipts. But also, if you are looking at something that will be specialized for you, maybe you have a special problem, you have a special need that you want us to address that for you also, then you may consider enrolling in our private lectures. That will also be helpful for you if you are interested in that. Again, you can send a message on WhatsApp about that. My executive assistant will provide you with the information so that you can make the best decision. So Daniel, yes, we have the Nhyira Premium Platinum program for people doing receipts, and you can check it out. If it is something fit for you, 2,000 Ghana cedi, you can join, and we will assist you to go into the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and pass the examination. Another comment is, I want to enroll. Okay, so you can visit our website, nhyirapremium.com. Okay, you can see the address on the L banner. Just type Nhyira Premium in your browser. The website is going to come. Then you go there, nhyirapremium.com. Or you can send us a message on WhatsApp as well. Timetable and other information will be sent to you so that you check the live lectures and everything. Then the information about how to complete your enrollment will also be given to you. So Alan, you can enroll in a course there as well. Thanks for your answer. It's clear. Okay. I'm sitting for FR 1 week from now. Any help? 1 week from now, you are sitting for FR. Okay, so that's ACCA, right? Because that will be first week in December. Right. I see the moon, and the moon sees me. God bless the moon, and God bless me. Any help? I don't know your state, how you've studied or you are studying, but generally what I've said here, it's going to be applicable to you. Understanding the accounting standards, very important. Knowing about the principles in consolidated financial statements, very important. If you want something beyond that, like you want me to provide you with some mentorship program, then you may again send us a message on WhatsApp. There could be a private session that could be arranged to provide you with some assistance as you go into the exam hall, deal with specific issues to position you to pass the examination. And that'll be a private class, will come at a premium price. So you can send us a message on WhatsApp. Details about that will be sent to you if you are interested. But my general advice will be, make sure you understand the principles about accounting standards. Be strong on consolidation. Be strong on ethics. Be strong on evaluation of financial statements, because the examiner is going to be bringing questions in these areas, and you have to be in the position to apply the principles underlying these areas. And make sure that once you get the principles, you expose yourself to questions, because it's important you practice a lot of questions so that you can work with your speed, you can work with your accuracy, you can work with your ability to retain or recollect information as fast as possible generally. So that is what I would say there. But as I said, if you want any class or any session, you can send us a message on WhatsApp. My executive assistant will provide you with the information. How much is in Zimbabwe? I don't know what you are talking about though, but you can check your exchange rate in your country. I don't know what you are asking about, because each subject has its own cost. If you are talking about our rate at 2,000 Ghana cedi, for instance, I don't know, that would be less than $120 or so. 2,000 cedis. So you can just check Google for that. Yeah, that's like 129 US dollars for 2,000 cedis. But in your case, you don't need that as we are talking about. So you can send a message on WhatsApp with what you want, and then we'll be able to provide you with the assistance that you need so that you select something that will be appropriate for you. And if it is something you can pay for and you need, we will be able to assist you. So that is it about that. And these are some questions for me here. So let me bring back my slide and let's go. So that is the first thing, the objective of the examiner, the accounting standards. So really, everything rises and falls on the accounting standards. Because when we come to the second part, evaluation of financial statement, it is important you know how to calculate the various ratios. So again, you must know the principles on calculating all the various ratios, but most importantly, how to interpret the ratios. Very important, because calculating the ratios sometimes is easy, other times it's not that easy. So you got to be able to calculate the ratios, but the most important thing is your ability to be able to interpret the ratios. Okay, your ability to be able to interpret the ratios. So it is important for you to understand the accounting standards, because sometimes in a ratio question, the examiner has various options when it comes to dealing with ratio questions. There are 5 options available to the examiner when it comes to dealing with ratio questions. 5. You can have the standard ratio question where you calculate the ratios, nothing extra, and then you do the interpretation. 2, the examiner can calculate the ratios and ask you to do the interpretation. 3, the examiner can give you financial statement where an entity is acquiring another company. So in the previous year, there were a single entity. Now the entity is a group. How do you analyze the performance of the entity? That's a type of ratio question. 4, there may be a question where the entity is disposing of a part of the business in the subsequent year. So last year it was a full business. Now they've disposed of some part of the business. How do you calculate the ratios? How do you interpret the ratios? What are the things you're supposed to look out for? That is an option available to the examiner. Then we may be asked to do common size analysis. We may be asked to do cash flow analysis for corporate reporting students. So understanding that when it comes to evaluation of financial statement, the examiner has 5 options that he can hit you with. And you must understand the principles underlining each of these options will be crucial for you going into the exam hall. Which means before you get into the financial reporting or the corporate reporting examination, you should have solved questions on each of these 5 areas or 6 areas for corporate reporting students in evaluation of financial statement. Each of them. Because if you have not exposed yourself to questions on each of these 6 areas for corporate reporting students, then you go to the exam hall, you will see the question, you'll be like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Oh, look at the question. Ooh, oh. I told you. You have to expose yourself to questions. So that is ratios. Then you come to the financial statement preparation. No miracles there. This is for financial reporting students exclusively, single entity for the most part, although in corporate reporting under financial reconstruction, business reorganization, the examiner may ask you to prepare a financial statement before you do what you are supposed to do. We are just applying the accounting standards there. Then you come to the the favorite of all students, consolidated financial statement. Consolidated financial statement. 20 marks waiting for you in the exam hall. You need to understand the basic principles when it comes to consolidation. The basic principles when it comes to consolidation. Again, our summary videos on this is helpful, where we go through all the basic principles. You're supposed to look at the group structure. How do you calculate goodwill? How do you deal with fair value of consideration transferred? There are 5 elements or 4 elements to be included in the fair value of consideration transferred. How do you treat that? How do you treat each of the elements when you're in the consolidated P&L, when you're in consolidated cash flow, when you're in consolidated statement of financial position? You have to understand all of these. When it comes to non-controlling interest, we can value it at fair value. Under the fair value, there are 2 methods of valuing NCI under the fair value. Then we can do the valuation using the proportionate method. It is important you understand this. Then fair value adjustment, because anytime a business acquires another business, they have to revalue the assets. That is fair value adjustment. In that area, you are just applying your understanding from these accounting standards, because it could be anything at all that the examiner is asking you about in the fair value adjustment area. So how do you now apply those accounting standards in a consolidated environment? Same principles, but now to be applied in a consolidated environment. Very important. Then from there, you come to intra-group trading. What are the principles underlining sale of goods? What are the principles underlining sale of assets? What are the principles underlining the reconciliation of the current accounts? You have to understand each of these principles. It's important. So, consolidation also, it's all about principles. And for those of you in corporate reporting, we are going to then take consolidation to exponent 19, where you're going to do foreign subsidiary. You're going to do complex group structure. You're going to do consolidated cash flow statement. So in corporate reporting, we are taking it to another level. That is why you have to be careful, because if you are not careful, because there is a lot to be learned in consolidation, you may spend a lot of time and dealing with the consolidation, which is just 20%, and not paying attention to the other 80% of the syllabus. So you have to be careful. Yes, you are supposed to know the principles in respect of each of the things in consolidation, but you have to be careful that you are not spending more time on it and optimize yourself on the 80% instead to be able to pass the examination. Then you come to the basic conceptual framework. It is a reading area. Ethical issues, reading area. There are basic principles you must understand. IFRS standard setting, reading area, basic principle. You have to understand them. Right? Basic areas, you have to understand them. And so when it comes to this, then certainly this is exclusive for corporate reporting students. business valuation. You must know the principles underlining each of the methods. Asset valuation method, earning yield, PE ratio, dividend yield, cash flow method. What are the principles underlining them? Okay, if I'm doing financial reconstruction, business reorganization, what are the principles underlining each of them? So again, it's all about principles, approaches, strategies, techniques, because in the exam hall, that's all you are doing. That's all you are doing. So you have to ask yourself, how can I understand the basic principles underlining each of these topics? To make it easier for you, that is where I am saying that our key summary videos is the game changer for you that you can leverage on to be able to do this. Because that way you are not sitting down watching a 3-hour video, somebody talking and somebody is asking a question that has nothing to do with you, and you are sitting there, you are bored. No, nobody is asking a question. It's a 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, specific principles. You watch something you don't understand, you reach out. You will be assisted and explain further to you, so you can use the summary videos to go through the syllabus in record time. Once you do that, you can now start solving questions. And again, we have a lot of questions available at our disposal. Listen to me carefully. In solving questions, don't just go to the ICAG past questions. Yeah, look at the ICAG past questions, but don't use that as your be all in all. No. Because some of you think, ICAG, you just have to solve the past question. So you solve the past question from 1966 or 1963 to 2024. You will still go to the exam hall and fail. Because it's not about the questions you are solving. It's about the principles and the way you are approaching the exam. So use the past question, but you got to be limited on that. Instead, you want to solve more questions outside the ICAG past questions. And this is where you go to the ICAG question bank. It can be helpful. So you get an ICAG question bank. There are questions in there that can be helpful. Then you go outside the ICAG question bank and look at questions from other sources. SEMA, how do we call it? ACCA, universities doing MBA, MSc. Look at questions outside the ICAG past questions. Because for the most part, there is nothing in the past question that will come. 99.9% of the time. Yes, the same topic is going to be there. The same standard is going to be there. But the structure of the question, the spirit of the question, the nature of the question, the verbs of the question will be different. So your best shot is to try to expose yourself to questions that the examiner has not exposed students to in the past. And that is from the ICAG question kit. That is from ACCA. That is from SEMA. That is from other sources to help you to go into the exam hall and pass the examination. And so that is a strategy for us for financial reporting and corporate reporting. You want to pass the examination, know the objective of the examiner. That's what I shared with you in the beginning. Know the objective of the examiner. What is he looking for? Now that you know that, look at the accounting standards. The key thing is you're going to be applying principles. So how do you know the principles in record time? I am saying that leverage our key summary videos. It's available in our mobile application when you enroll in our courses to pass the examination. Once you understand the principles, expose yourself to questions. Subject yourself to mentorship. Listen, as I was telling you yesterday, you want to spread this over 12 weeks. It's a lot of work. Look at the things that I'm telling you. Look at the breakdown. Look at IAS 16. Look at the connection of the standards. Look at the basic standards. Look at the key standards. Look at the other standards. So it's a lot. That is why you cannot sit down 2 weeks to the exam hall and take some useless leave and think you can finish the syllabus and go and pass the exam. You will fail. It's not a curse. It's not a prophecy. It's life. Because you can't do all these in 1 week. It's not possible. So you have to spread your wings and be committed and be dedicated like we spoke about yesterday. Have a steady plan and go through this. Expose yourself to questions. Don't just look at the ICAG past questions. Solve questions outside the ICAG past question. That is where you look at various aspects. Because it's the same principle, but you see the context of the question. It's different. It's some way. Then as you expose yourself to questions like that, it's building your muscles. You are getting better understanding of the standard, and that is how you position yourself to go into the exam hall and pass the examination. So how do you pass the financial reporting or corporate reporting examination? Know the objective of the examiner. Once you know that, spend time to understand the principles underlining the accounting standards, evaluation of financial statements. Know the way the examiner is going to be setting the questions. And that is one of the things we do here. And you heard me saying that about, say, the evaluation of the financial statement. There are 5 options available to the examiner. 6 if you are in corporate reporting. There is another one that we could add to even make it 7. So the examiner has 5 options basic about evaluation of financial statements. So if all you are doing is, hey, I am, calculating ratios and trying to interpret, you may go and fail the exam. Why? Because there are other 4 aspects of the ratios that you have not exposed yourself to. So you may go to the exam hall and that is what is coming. And you'll be like, oh, I saw the ratio question. I've not seen it before anywhere. So I couldn't do it. Yeah. Don't put yourself in that position. Do not put yourself in that position. Any other questions for me? I'm seeing some questions coming up here. Any other questions for me? Maybe you want to pick my brain on something on the financial reporting or corporate reporting or something that I've spoken about. You can put it in the chat for me or in the comments for me if you're watching the playback. Yao Tre said, where do you get the key summary videos? In our mobile application. In our mobile application. So you can download our mobile application, the Nhyira Premium mobile application, and enroll in the course. It's part of our full program where you get access to the summary videos on everything that I've mentioned here. You get a summary videos to understand the principles. It's a game-changing material that helps you to go through the syllabus in record time. So you see in the app, you see the summary videos in the app, and everything is there that you must understand. That way you can finish the syllabus in record time and then expose yourself to questions so that you can go to the exam hall, write the exam with confidence and pass the exam. So you can check our mobile application and then enroll in a course, and then you'll be able to get access to those key summary videos on all of the accounting standards, all of the topics that I've mentioned here, so that the key thing I want you to take away here is this. In the exam hall, you are applying principles. Listen carefully. That is all I want you to take away. The financial reporting or corporate reporting examination, you are applying principles. Nobody cares about the questions you have solved. It's all about principles. So you have to make sure you understand the principles. That is the starting point. And that is why I'm recommending that spread this thing over 12 weeks. Don't think you can, sit down 1 week to the exam hall, you can do everything. No, spread it over the 12 weeks. Have a steady plan. Yesterday we discussed about this. Then get a notepad. Maybe you have an iPad, or you have an Android tablet, or you have a notebook, or maybe you have a smartphone phone with an S Pen or something like that, have the principles written down somewhere. So that there are sometimes all you are doing is to pick the principles. Then you are looking at it. So IAS 20 government grants. What are the principles? Okay, there are two ways the government grants can be treated. We can write it off. Okay, when we write it off, how are we supposed to account for it? The principles are there. Okay, if we use that method and the entity has to repay the grant, what are the principles underlining how the grant repayment should be dealt with? That is what I mean by understanding the principles. So when you get to the exam hall, you see a question where the entity has received a grant, but they were not able to fulfill the terms of the grant, and so they are supposed to pay 50% of the grant. But the entity had initially written off the grant against the initial cost of the asset. Then you just apply the principles on how you account for write-off of grant. That's it. That's it. So that is what I want you to do. Spend time, understand the principles, and I need you to have a key summary book. I'm really on this thing where you have the principles written down on each of the concepts, each of the principles, and you are reading this. So it sits with you. So immediately you read the story, the principle will just fall on you and you answer the question. That's it. But it will require work. And if you are not ready to work, then you're going to fail the exam, which I don't want you to. Right? Which I don't want you to. I'm seeing another comment coming out of here. Rich King Sodokpo said, Nhyira, if someone wants only key summary videos, how much is the cost? We don't have that available. It's specifically included in our program. So you enroll in the course. I don't know. I think financial reporting is 700 cedis. Corporate reporting is 800 cedis. So it's part of the complete program. We don't have that separately available for you to get access to. In that case, so you enroll in the complete program to get access to that. Yeah, corporate reporting is 800 cedis, financial reporting is 700 Ghana cedis. So we don't have just the summary videos to get access to. It's part of our complete program because, as always, we believe that it's not just about taking a portion. No, that's why we design our program the way we design. We have the summary videos. We have the full lecture videos there. You have the live lectures. We have our mock sessions. We have the performance evaluation tests. We have the extra classes that are going to be coming in. It's a whole program. Because you can't just say, oh, I'll pick this and go away. No. You have to engulf yourself in everything to really be better positioned to pass the examination. So, Rich King Sodokpo, unfortunately, only the video not available. It's a complete package. You get everything. So you can enroll in the complete course and get access to everything. And let us assist you better to go into the exam hall, write the exam with confidence, and pass the examination. All right? Okay, so that is it there. Any other questions for me? So, really, all we need to do is be strong in the accounting standards. Please, as I said, have a notepad dedicated to know the principles and write that down. Write it down. I've had students who are like, oh, Nhyira, do the principles and give it to us. No. I have it. I won't give it to you because it's not something that is supposed to be given. You have to sit down and study because this thing is not like Baba. You don't chew Baba and go into the exam. It's not Baba. You have to study it, write it down yourself, assimilate it. Then you can pass the examination. It's work. It's work. So that is the strategy if you want to pass the corporate reporting or financial reporting examination. I believe that if you approach the exam like this and be willing to spread it over the 12 weeks, be willing to go the extra mile, you will be in a better position to pass the March 2025 examination, which is going to be taking place in the first week of March. I don't know, I think 2nd to 4th to 8th March, I think so. No, 3rd to 7th March. That is when your exam is going to be in that particular case. Nhyira, timely response to WhatsApp will go long way to gap. I've been asking for the cost of your textbook, but no response from you on that. Edem, okay. All right, sorry about that. There are a lot of messages that come, so sorry about that. You can just send another hi so that it will be checked for you. Sometimes my assistant, it could be a message that has escaped here or something like that. If other new messages come up, then you know certainly the message is going to be pushed down in that regard. Sorry about that, but please, you can just send hi again on a follow-up message on that, and it will be checked for you in respect of that. Let me see for myself. What's your name, Edem? Do we even have this? Okay, so you were asked which book. No, yesterday you were asked which books are you willing to buy. And then you replied this morning about it. Okay, so the details will be sent to you. I know the way you are saying, I thought that it will be like this. Okay. So the details will be sent to you about this. I don't have information about this. So my assistant will I'll notify her and she will respond to that for you. Okay. All right. So that's it about that. And we're going to be wrapping up around here today. And God willing, next week, Monday, I'm going to be jumping in your way as we look at some other subjects as well. We're going to be trying to go through this to help you to have an understanding of what you are expected to do in the exam hall going into March 2025. But as I told you yesterday, it's going to be work. It's labor. And you have to spread this over the 7 weeks. And that's how you pass the examination. You cannot do this overnight. It's not possible. It's not possible. So you can head on our website, NhyiraPremium.com, to enroll in our full course, to study under my mentorship. Let us assist you to make this journey easier for you. We understand and know exactly what it takes. But it got to be work on your part. Because the things that I've said here, it's work. There is no shortcut. There is no baba. You have to know everything in the light of the way it has to be. Then you expose yourself to questions. Then you do assignments. Then you do performance evaluation tests. Then you do mock. That is how you are prepared well for the examination. But if you sit down a week to the exam hall and go and attend an intervention class, you are just shooting yourself in the foot because there is nothing in your brain. So the intervention class is not going to help you. Intervention is not for lazy people. It's for people who have been learning, and that session is just to, push them into excellence. That's all. But if you're not learning and you sit down, and you think you can attend a 2 hours, a 5-hour intervention class, and you're going to pass the examination, then you're smoking something. So you have to be committed. You have to work hard. You have to be consistent. Spread this thing over 12 weeks. That is how you pass the examination. If you are willing to go the extra mile, to work hard, to be held accountable, enroll in our course, to study under my mentorship. Let us assist you so that in March 2025, and by 2025 about this time, most of you can become chartered accountants. It's possible. There are 3 examination dates in 2025. 3. March, July, and November. So 2025, by this time, you are a chartered accountant. Imagine it. Close your eyes. When you're going to bed tonight, just close your eyes and imagine yourself walking on the podium and you are graduating as a chartered accountant about this time next week. I know some of you have said amen, Nhyira. Yeah, you finish saying the amen, but you have to work for it. Do you get the idea? So it's not just like, oh, amen, by the grace of God, inshallah, I'm going to pass. Then you are lazy and you're not learning. You have to study so that the grace of God will make you prosper. Okay? God brings the rain on both the wicked and the righteous. So if you are not serious and you don't till your land well, and you don't take care of your crops well, you don't grow seeds that will yield more harvest, then the rain will come and it's not going to be in your favor. So work hard, put in the effort, put in the sacrifices. By the grace of God, next year about this time, most of you should be graduating or have graduated and are chartered accountants. And get the hell out of this place. So that you can get the hell out of this place. All right. So that's it about that. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. And I'll catch you on Monday as we continue with our discussion. Stay safe. Bye-bye.